Good evening once again, viewers, listeners, and welcome once more to Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell, and of course, our co-host, Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron. Pleasure to be here again this evening, and good evening to our viewers and listeners. We hope you enjoy our program this evening. We think we have an interesting topic tonight.
Tonight, of course, we have our business to do or current affairs to talk about, but we'll be dealing with cybersecurity, its implications and what we can do about it. It's a big issue, Chris, you know.
Very.
But locally, Chris, it's the dry season. It's not late. We expect the rains in a couple of weeks. But anyway, dry season, we have fires, we have shortage of water. Was the focus, you know, but I want to start, Chris, with this evening, today actually, there was a significant, some people call it bushfire, but fire in Mount Morris. Houses were threatened, persons lost property in terms of fruit trees and other stuff like that, but I want to compliment the community for coming out, you know, for assisting the firemen in bringing the fires under control. Up to this evening, up to 7:30, 8 o'clock, the firemen were still in the community. I mean, as much as 2 brigades, I understand the St. John's, because the fire was so extensive that you had other units had to come in to assist with the situation. Not a good development at all.
Yeah, Byron, whenever we enter dry season, you know, you expect bushfires, but you don't expect it to be because somebody set a fire to burn some bush. And I hope that wasn't the situation in Mount Morris, because with the current acute shortage of water, you know, and the pressures that you put on the system when you have these bushfires, and the danger it poses. But I want to also take this from the point of view of what is going to happen and what is the expectation for the hurricane season. I've been watching some of the weather reports, and it appears that we're heading into a La Nina situation, which means that, you know, the expectation is that we're going to have a lot more systems coming through. They're estimating around 25, and of that, 5 will be major hurricanes. And unfortunately for us in the south of the Caribbean chain, there's a high pressure system they're predicting is going to keep these systems low down to our side. So I say that to say, after you're coming out from such a severe dry season, when the rain starts, we have to prepare to get for floods, slides, mudslides, and so on. So we also have to prepare our homes to prepare for proper drainage so that the water could flow, because if we get torrential downpour, the idea is that the soil could take so much, absorb, and then after a while it becomes excessive and we have to prepare for the runoff. So I'm just saying, you know, yes, we're coming from a dry season. Yes, a lot of us want the rain to start to fall because to deal with the water shortage and our plants and those of us in agriculture. But at the end of the day, we also have to prepare for what could possibly
As we're coming into the rain season, now we come into the hurricane season. That's specifically.
Right. Starts on the 1st of
And
June.
on that, Chris, I want to tell you that we will schedule to have NAGMA here to talk about some of their plans and the preparations and the kind of advice that's necessary. But let's not take this easy. Let's take this seriously. This climate change and what we can do as individuals is going to be really important. Chris, Grenlec, of course, we heard that the chairman, Rodney George, we heard about his resignation, but we also are aware of load shedding. What's really going on? What are you picking up out there, Chris?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, it has been since Grenlec, I mean, government took it over. It would appear that we have had load shedding issues. And more than that, we have had just loss of power. I had loss of power yesterday 3 times in my facility in Sissons and Grand Anse in one day. And other parts of the country had similar experiences. And you get a sense that there is some level of, I don't know if instability is the right word, but it would appear that our engines in Grenlec are aging, and we're being told that they have to bring in standby engines to keep the power supply up to the level that we need, whilst they either repair or replace. And the question became, I remember, I think the Prime Minister announced it in his transition from from heavy dependence on burning fuel for power to going into PV systems. And I know there was a big project scheduled for Point Salines area. You know, you're not hearing much about that again. And that is something that, you know, we need to understand what is going on in Grand Lake in terms of the efficiency, the ability to produce power based on the age of the engines. Are we going into buying these huge engines and dependency on fuel versus transitioning gradually to PV systems? And I think it is something we need to be aware of, both in business and individuals, because businesses depend heavily on power consumption.
But
So-
are we moving sufficiently into the green area, though? I mean, nationally, are you
Well, the Prime Minister knows that is the policy of his
Yeah,
government.
yeah.
He wants to move there.
Yeah.
And then you have the issues with PERC and what is happening with PERC.
Yeah.
There are people who have invested in PV systems.
Yeah.
And when you invested initially, you were getting credit based on what you supplied during the day
Yeah.
and the offset.
Yeah.
Now it's the other way. So apparently Grand Lake made a change at something, and you know, people who have these systems now are still paying money. And you have to ask yourself, well, what has happened?
What's going on?
And where is the PERC in all of this? Because the PERC seems to be very weak in what it's doing and its regulations and setting up what is happening there. So a lot of these questions are coming up now that could threaten and ask questions, hard questions about where Grenada is going with infrastructure.
Why do you think the chairman resigned? You picking up anything? What's
No,
what
I
you
didn't
got?
hear anything
I heard an
from
announcement that there would be a
Yes.
statement
Correct.
coming at some point.
Yeah.
Chris, gun violence, I mean, it continues. But the positive side of it, we understand the police have been making arrests and charges. But the problem remains. But this is good development anyway.
It is.
Oh.
It is, and we have to compliment the RGPF for the work that they've been doing to solve the crimes. The issue is, does the RGPF have a policy or strategic plan to deal with the gang situation in Grenada and the violence that comes up? Drugs is indirectly related. And that is a concern, because you're not hearing anything coming from the RGPF top echelon and, of course, the Minister for National Security. So the question is, what is the effect of these gangs? These gangs seem to be very solid and consolidated in the areas, and they have different ones and so on. They also seem to be well trained relatively. When you see the kind of weaponry they're flashing on social media, obviously you have to know to use these things. So I'm saying that, you know, is there a way the RGPF and the country could come up with a strategic plan to diffuse the situation and get these gangs off? Because I'm told that these gangs have serious people participating in them, including women. Women are now, as we saw, one on the papers got arrested for holding arms and ammunition. They're transferring it to the ladies. So, I mean, we're in a situation where we really need to get a good grip on this thing as we go forward.
I would like to know what's the status of the amnesty, gun amnesty, to what extent has been successful, whatever. Chris, in the news, we've been hearing a lot about the NNP and the leadership issues. We've heard a number of senior NNP personnel, whether current or past, including Oliver Joseph, including Anthony Boswin, including Bert Braffett, including Kenny Lal Singh, and others. And their message generally has been directed at the fact that they are of the opinion that Dr. Mitchell, who is the present leader of the NNP, should call the convention, let the convention happen, and allow the party to determine leadership going forward. They're of the view, and based on what they are seeing or hearing or feeling, they're in the know that somehow Dr. Mitchell is intent on contesting, or remaining, I should say, which word is correct, I'm not sure, as the leader of the NNP. Is this good or bad for the country?
Well, it depends on who you ask. But at the end of the day, you know, when you look at Dr. Mitchell's legacy and contribution to national development in Grenada, being a parliamentarian in excess of 35 years, I think it is, or something like that, I don't think anybody could doubt what his contribution has been. But I think there comes a time when all of us have to realize that you need to step aside and give probably other persons a chance, younger or whatever, or more vibrant, a chance at this thing. And I think the longer he stays, and when you hear all these stalwarts who have been around him for these years in the NNP expressing the view that they believe it's time for him to step aside and call the convention. The convention is 3 years overdue. Right, so come on.
But why aren't more members of the party, like Peter David, like others, even Pierre and others, they are not calling, we're not hearing a statement from them that the convention is due, it should be called, because according to the information, it's 3 years. And where, if your constitution says that every year, your constitution says that there must be a convention, annual convention, 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, and then you see, that begs the question when you see these things, what it is Dr. Mitchell is trying to prove, what it is that he sinisterly is trying to develop. Is it that he wants to continue and get the party and get the delegates? All kind of machinations come in your mind about what the gentleman is trying to do.
But I want to hear more from the others, and I'm calling Peter David name out loud. I want to hear more from him. You know, what's his position on this? Mrs. Pierre, what's her position on this? And other seniors within the party that are active, not like Dr. Braffett, that is not a member of the executive. What is the other executive saying? Anyway, we'll see what happens. According to Dr. Mitchell, it will be sometime this year. I don't know.
Yes, that's what he says.
Yeah,
so
let's go
see.
on. Chris, the situation in Gaza continues. Israel continues its bombardment and its genocidal actions in Gaza. Of course, the recent development we've had is at two levels. I think one is that we heard that the ICC has issued or is seeking arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister and some of the leadership in Hamas and in the cabinet also. Of course, the U.S. has come out very clear in the defense of Israel and have. What's absurd, Chris, is that the United States, and I mean the Congress and other leadership within the U.S. government, is threatening sanctions against the officials in the International Court of Criminal Court. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, and you know, that is a kind of situation that. What is good for the goose ain't good for the gander, because remember, the United States were asking for sanctions and arrest and things for the Ukraine war with Russia, where they support Ukraine, of course, and they were putting a lot of pressure on the Russian diplomats and Russian military people for similar kind of things and assertions. And here you have Israel doing this thing to the Palestinians.
Which is blatant.
So, you know, you're far about it. What is
the CARICOM issue?
Yes.
Where is CARICOM on this?
CARICOM as a bloc have now supported Palestine as a state. And that is an important development, because what it does is that when it comes to issues in the UN, the recognition provides for Palestinian representatives to discuss issues such as borders, security, refugee status, and Palestinian claims to the West Bank. And it gives it a certain amount of legitimacy through the UN, which is a good thing for the development of Palestine and as a state. So you have now the use of legal mechanisms to settle in land disputes between Israel and Palestine that will come through the UN and so on. So increasingly, you will see, based on that CARICOM thing and so on, that Israel is going to get you know, kind of sidelined or put in a sort of vein. Although most of these CARICOM countries have not surrendered as Belize did, surrendered their diplomatic relations with Israel. So, you know, it is one kind of 6 on one, half a dozen on the other side. So it's a sensitive thing between the countries, but CARICOM as a bloc now
have taken that position. It's an important development.
Which is an important development that this way to solution and peace is a two-state.
Two-state, yeah.
Palestine being a state.
And Israel.
And Israel being a state. And we know from the conflict that Israel don't want to hear that.
I know. And South Africa is back in the National Court of Justice, seeking, again, pursuing the position that Israel is pursuing a genocide policy, but asking the court to stop Israel from further incursion in Rafah, in particular, because of the humanitarian crisis there. So it's interesting to see what comes up in given these developments. Viewers, stay with us. We get back, we'll be talking to our special guest, is Jervis Dabreo. He is, of course, the coordinator of the Grenada National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
Imagine a place where dreams come true. Fairyland awaits at the Magical Kids June Fair and Family Fun Day. Mark your calendars for June 9th. The Radisson grounds will transform into a wonderland for kids. Stay tuned for more enchanting details. Don't miss out.
The laundry, always do a full load. Save water.
This awareness initiative is part of activities under the Climate Resilient Water sector in Grenada. The project is funded by the Green Climate Fund, the German government, and the government of Grenada.
Hey Grenada, are you ready for the ultimate Sunday football fun day? On Sunday, May 26th, join the GFA for Battle of the Grenadines Round 2, featuring Team Grenada facing off against the Vinci Heat in the Carriacou Mini Stadium. For just $100, you get an all-inclusive ticket to the match and an epic excursion from Grenada to Carriacou aboard the Tyrrell Bay Express. Imagine this, sailing out from 9 a.m. with the sun shining, music pumping, drinks flowing, and the best vibes all around. Kickoff 4 p.m. We return right after the game, so the fun doesn't stop. And if you're already in Carriacou, no worries. Join us for the match for just $20. Tickets are flying fast. Grab yours at the GFA office, Chucky's Bar, or the Grenadian Optical. Let's make a wave and cheer Team Grenada to victory. Sponsored by the Tyrrell Bay Express.
Ready to kickstart your morning the right way? The return of MTV's Rise and Shine morning show will help you do just that. Rise and Shine Grenada is coming back with a touch of fusion. Stay tuned for more.
Washing the vehicle? Use a bucket, not a hose. Save water.
This awareness initiative is part of activities under the Climate Resilient Water sector in Grenada. The project is funded by the Green Climate Fund, the German government, and the government of Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers, to Community Forum. And this evening, as we indicated earlier, we're going to be talking cybersecurity and the issues that we face in Grenada in particular, but in the region as a wider region. And we have with us the coordinator of the Grenada National Cybersecurity Incidents Response Team, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Jervis Dabreo. So we want to welcome Mr. Dabreo to the program. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Dabreo.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here with you gentlemen this evening.
So let me start off the conversation, Mr. Dabreo, with you've heard out there that the region has been targeted in recent times with high frequency in a number of different areas because they consider us a soft target, as we would say. Financial sector, businesses, personal people with the different
devices.
What is the incident response team looking to do to harden the target, so to speak?
Well, one of the major things that can be done in a case like that is to raise awareness, right? People need to know what the threats look like, what the landscape look like generally. So what are you expecting to come your way? And how do you recognize these things? The human element tend to be the link in the entire chain that is exploited the most by cyber criminals or bad actors out there. You can have the best infrastructure, equipment, software. But at the end of the day, if the human element is going to click on a link, download an attachment, you're going to have a problem. So raising awareness across the board is where we as cyber experts put quite a bit of focus in addressing some of these issues. Primarily because many of these attacks, they have social engineering elements to them, where what is being exploited is what makes us human, our emotions, the curiosity, wanting to do little work and get rich quick. So all these, these are the things that they throw our way, the bait. And if you're unaware, you click.
I mean, I get, from my experience in my company, we have to do these, I don't know if it's courses, I don't want to call them courses, but sensitivity updates every 6 months.
Yes.
If it's not your password, it's reminding you what is phishing, what is
Yes.
this, what is that, and how not to get involved.
Yes.
So some of us, like me now, if I get an email from somebody, I just delete it. I'm sorry. I ain't taking no chance.
Yeah.
You understand? Because the weakest link in the chain is where the attack comes
Yes.
from. And then you get all sorts of things like ransomware, and they want payment in how much millions of dollars, whether it's in Bitcoin or whatever. So is it something that businesses need to take on board seriously, particularly the financial sector that got hit recently?
Well, the financial sector has been hit several times over. I think we witnessed maybe the most public one a few weeks ago, right? But I think it goes back to having to shift our mentality. Normally we say you are innocent until proven guilty. When it comes to cybersecurity, it has to go the other way around. Anything that comes your way must be treated as guilty, as suspicious, as malicious, until it proves that it isn't. For the farmers, we say 99 days for the thief, 1 day for the watchman. In cybersecurity, it's the other way around, right? If you're to protect your infrastructure, you have to get it right 100% of the times. All the bad actors need is one opportunity to create chaos. So it calls for a shifting in how we view security, how we treat with the information that we have in our care, and just generally how we do business. Understanding that many institutions, many entities got thrust into this unprepared because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And let me, because the other aspect of it is the cost. Because we as customers demand speed, flexibility, use of your cell phone to do almost everything. But the infrastructure in the background to protect your identity and your information comes with significant cost, doesn't it?
But let me ask you this, as a businessman. 2 persons approach you. Somebody from your marketing team requesting $500,000. And your IT team requesting $100,000. Who gets the money?
Right. It's a difficult decision, but in my operation, yes, we are digital and we do what we have to do on the digital platform. So you will try to, if I had to make a decision, I'll give marketing a little less and give IT some. Because you need to understand the risks. It's all about risks. And if the ID puts forward a case where the risk is higher, then you give them the money.
Right.
Versus marketing.
And that is the mentality that we need to adopt, right? I think for many business owners, managers and so, it is a hard sell. Because at the end of the day, if you put the money into marketing, you will see tangible returns, right? There are more clients, you're moving more products, you can see that. But if you invest the money in the IT infrastructure and in the cybersecurity element of your organization, what do you see? It's like insurance. You don't need it until you need it, and then you wish you had it if you didn't have it, so you better ensure that you have it, right? And because of that, and the substantive amount that you may need to put in, some companies have been skimping on it, right? Praying that they do not fall victim. But it's not a matter of if. It is a matter of when, right? And we must treat it in that manner. At some point, somebody may be overwhelmed, they may be tired, they'll click, right? A piece of equipment in the infrastructure that should have been swapped out may still be there, and that can be exploited. Understanding that the bad actors, they are highly motivated.
That's the thing.
Because there's a lot of money involved, right? When you look at the implications, the impact of cybercrime globally, we think of the top 3 economies in the world. We think of the US, we think of China and Japan. But that is only if we're factoring physical landmass, right? If we're looking at just money moving, you're looking at the US, you're looking at China, and you're looking at cybercrime.
Yeah. And billions.
Wow.
You're looking at trillions of dollars, having surpassed the GDP of Japan. And by 2027, it is estimated that over $25 trillion is going to be lost to cyber crimes. Now, if the trajectory is maintained as we've seen, then China may lose its position as number 2. You know, so there's a lot of money to be made, and you have to make the investment.
And Jervis, this is where I want to go, because clearly the information seems to show that it is on the rise. That the last report I saw says that it's steadily climbing for 4 consecutive years. That is cybersecurity and data breaches, with notable surge in targeting smaller businesses. Reaching as high as 36% of smaller businesses, costing billions. So the question is, with phishing, with malware, with machine learning, AI, cryptocurrency, and more, all of these are placing data security at risk. Is it a losing battle? Are we losing this? Are we applying sufficient talent, professionals like yourself, in this business? Because even you're coordinating a response to cyber security issues. Where is the proactive aspect? Where is it? I'm asking several questions for you, and I hope you're noting them. What can an individual do as a person, me, you, person in the community, to protect their savings, protect their information?
Right. So there are several questions there, as you admitted to. One, there is a shortage of cybersecurity experts worldwide. There aren't enough coming out of the universities and the colleges to satisfy the needs of the market. And those that are coming out, in some cases, are poached even while they're still in the classroom. Those that may go into government service may also be approached by entities within the private sector, where more money can be thrown at them. There was this myth for a couple of years where it was believed that, hey, only the big corporation, the big companies are attacked and targeted by the cyber criminals out there. But that has changed, because the big corporations, they are investing money in hardening their security posture. Some of the smaller entities are unable to do so, again, because of the costs involved in it. And then just the system for recovery. Big corporations would plan for that. They have their risk assessment, they understand what their appetite is and how they move forward. Smaller companies are more concerned with staying afloat and ensuring that they do not go under. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a hard sell when you have marketing and IT approaching you. So what can we do? Is it a losing battle? It is a frustrating fight, but it is not a losing battle, right? I believe the more aware we become of what is happening and what we can do to protect ourselves, is the better we will be in terms of businesses, a country and a region, right? We have to get our people to a place where they know what is happening, where the awareness level
and that's the point. So
up.
and you mentioned it, what does the threats look like, and how do you recognize them?
Right. So number one, in terms of what we've been seeing from the National CISA, the National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, at the top of the list is phishing. Right? And for those who may have a hard time understanding what phishing is, if you think about phishing, fishermen, it involves having a line, hook, and bait on it. Right. The key here is having bait, something that is attractive to whatever it is you're trying to catch. Right. So if it is somebody looking for love, then you're going to approach them with some romance and some nice, sweet words, what have you. Somebody wanting to get rich, you may throw some investment thing at them, something that, you know, you just click and you win something, this sort of thing. For the business. And we saw that earlier this year where a company in Japan, one of their employees transferred over 25 million US dollars. It went into the pocket of bad actors.
Wow.
Now, this is the largest sum to date that we are aware of that was lost because of phishing, where AI, artificial intelligence, was at the core. I mean, the employee received an email instructing them to transfer $25 million. They thought it was a little off. The request was a little suspicious. They questioned it, and they got invited to a Zoom meeting. And in that Zoom meeting, they saw the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and other high-ranking members of the organization, and everything appeared to be above board, and the money was transferred. Yes, the Zoom call happened, but the people that the employees saw there were never there.
AI. And that's the big deal now. I mean, what role is AI going to play, both pro and con? You know, AI has the capacity to minimize cybersecurity issues, but and to what extent it has the ability to be more efficient in cyber security threats.
Right. Well, AI is proven to be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right. Previously, we said, hey, when these emails come in, look for the red flags, look for the grammatical errors, the misspelling, and you know we had 10 commas to use and we just threw them all over the place. Wow. But we're seeing emails now that are perfect. On point when it comes to the grammar and the punctuation, the tone, everything. AI is being used to write a lot of these. The spoofing or the hiding of the true origin of emails, these are a lot better now. The craft that is cyber criminals and what they do has gotten quite a bit better. But these tools can also be leveraged against them. So at some point in time, human being has to sleep, right? We would rely on AI to look for patterns, look for things, anomalies in the system, things that are a little out of whack in terms of what should happen. Chris Diali normally used 2 gigs of data for the day. So why is 4 gigs of data moving? Something is off here. There is more traffic than they should be. Now, a human may not necessarily pick up on that, but the AI that does not sleep, that is ever watching, is going to, you know, help with the security on that level. So there are quite a few applications how we can employ it within the systems to keep us safe. But with everything, the bad actors are going to find a way to leverage it as well.
Oh yeah, good and bad.
Yeah,
I want to ask you a question around the dark web and what is happening with the dark web as it relates to Grenada and what you see in terms of activity. Because the dark web is where all these things go.
Yes.
When they block information, they bring it to the dark web and they sell it on the dark web. So is there anything we could do as a country and as individuals to limit what happens on the dark web?
We can work to limit what gets on the dark web, right? So if we harden our systems, well, first off, I think we need to understand the importance of data, of our personal information. There is this myth that if I am a nobody, my data is not important, it is not valuable. And I can ask you, if you had to steal 2 identities, or one of 2, who would you go for? The current Prime Minister or the former Prime Minister, pick whichever one you want, or John Brown from Digo Peace? Who would you pick? You would have to be a fool to steal the identity of the former Prime Minister or even the current Prime Minister. I think people will know when you show up on the airport as Dickon Mitchell or Kate Mitchell that is you're not that person. But that other identity, that's an unknown person, that identity is valuable. So people out there need to understand that and they need to protect that. Now, if you're protecting it, it's not going to get on the dark web. I think we also need to start looking at employing resources to monitor should our data get on the dark web, so we can do something about it. Understanding that the dark web is not a place you go visiting if you do not know what you're about. So whenever we have ransomware attacks, successful ransomware attacks, one of the things that is expected to leave the company or the entity that was breached is data, is information. And with the instructions being don't pay them the ransom, they're not walking away empty-handed. So they are going to monetize the data that they stole, and it's going on the dark web.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's through data brokers or they're going to try selling it themselves, I think, this is where we can come in as a region, either to purchase or to, because...
As we say in the police, do a sting operation.
Yes.
And so we could get IP addresses and all of that.
And we've seen some level of success in that regard internationally, right? Just earlier this year, the US, in a joint venture, they were able to take down one of the top 5 ransomware gangs. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, we saw that gang reassembling itself to a certain extent and being a bit more vengeful in its attack. It's like a worm that every time you cut a little piece off, it just grows back and it continues. But as I said, they're highly motivated. There's a lot of money involved. So there are things that we can do. I think when it comes to companies, policies are important, right? Ensuring that people are not playing on work computers and working on play computers, that is important, right? Your employees should not be accessing work emails and so on their play devices, their personal devices, unless those devices have been vetted and you know that they're safe, they're clean. Similarly, on your main work computers, people should not just be going wherever they want. There should be restrictions there. What is the policy on people connecting when they come within your space? Do they get to connect on your Wi-Fi and have full access to the network? When it comes to money moving or you paying, let's assume you have a shipment coming in and you need to send out money. What is the process for that? What are the protocols, right? If you have verified information in terms of where the money should go, how do you treat with new instructions that come in saying, hey, I have changed my banking details, send the money to some other organizations. And here we've seen companies being burnt as a result of that. We're talking large sums of money. Just in March, we had about almost 400,000 EC dollars leaving the country. Instructions being sent via compromised email accounts, and the institutions acted on it and sent people's money out of the country. So policies are important, ensuring that the employees stick to them. The continuous training, upskilling of the employees, understanding that it is a culture you want to develop. Cybersecurity is not an IT problem. It is the new tourism. It is everybody's business. And everybody in the organization need to see where they fit in, understand where they fit in, and understand the risk. Right? Understand the risk, because the last thing you want is somebody to bring in a compromised device from home into your space, and now you have a serious problem.
If you were to look, because the public service is a big part of that. We're digitizing the public service. Paying our taxes now is almost totally digital. The issue is, if we had to rate the government service, and I'm not talking only Grenada, I'm talking generally, public service services to the public, in terms of the cybersecurity walls and what they have and so on, how would you rate that out of 10, 10 being the best?
Up to this morning, I paid my vehicle license online, right? I use the service. I don't sell what I wouldn't buy, right? So I do believe, and I stand by it, that we have an acceptable level of security for many of our key services. But there are gaps, there are limitations, there are holes in the... Yes, so there are holes in the armor. And I think This is something that is an ongoing process to fix, to remediate, to get us to a better place as far as the security posture is concerned. So we're still a soft target, but I'll tell you, we are a harder nut to crack now than we were in January of this year. Based on certain things that happened, our response from the administrators to just get things locked down a bit more, right? But we still need to get the awareness of our people.
Because, you know, some customers may come to an institution, whether it's public or private, and you have a two-factor authenticator that you use for them to make sure that this is the right person who, and they will get upset and say, you're asking them things they don't want to know about, and they just want access to whatever they're coming for.
But again,
and I suspect that's where the awareness comes.
Yes, and our people need to understand that convenience and security, they don't walk hand in hand.
Oil and water.
Right? If you want a high level of security, you have to give up convenience. You think about your home. When you get home, it is inconvenient that you need to dig in your bag, take the key, find the key, put it in the hole, turn the key. Come on, that's a lot of steps. Couldn't you just have a piece of wood that you kick and you get in? That's convenient. But you know who else it's convenient for? the thief in the community, or the one who visits, right? It's the same thing. It's convenient to have just a single lock on the door. But if that lock is breached, then you have a problem. It is more secure to have two locks on the door, and that's where the two-factor authentication comes in. So I think our people need to understand, and especially in light of the Data Protection Act that was passed some time ago, that companies have a responsibility to keep safe the information they collect.
That's correct.
And it's not just about them collecting it and keeping it safe, but they need to also ensure that you are the person who is accessing the service or accessing the account. That right there is you losing a bit of convenience for security.
I remember a story, a real story. Individual came into a financial institution to transact some business on his account. And the teller, obviously, when he said his name and produced his ID, picture came up, so forth and so on. But he had on a hat that was covering the face. So she asked him to remove the hat to ensure he's the right person. And the gentleman got on a tirade. He was who she thinks she is to tell him to take off his hat and so on. And the more she tried to explain to him is to make sure that I'm dealing with the right person. You know, and that is the issue of the convenience versus you know, the actual checking. Because if something went wrong and she gave the wrong person, they're holding the
he would come back and make real noise, right?
Real noise.
But it shows that even our education system need to now include elements of cybersecurity in there, right? We saw some time ago what happened in Florida, where the governor there, he mandated that everybody coming out of high school should have some course in money management, financial literacy. And I would dare say that we need to institute something like that within our space as well, where you coming out of the education system, you should have a fair idea. How do you fact check? How do you verify certain things on a basic level?
With a question here, I know how you answer it. Our young people live on their phones.
Right.
And they go on all kind of sites.
Yes.
And the issue is, how do we get them aware that it's not all sites that are authentic and genuine? And you need to, even as a young person, a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old in school and living on their phones, are vulnerable to the attack. And they could get information from them that they wouldn't even know.
Let me put it this way, right? If I had to get into your device, chances are trying to get into your device through your device is going to be a hard task. But if there's a little child in the house, a little boy that plays Free Fire, Fortnite, Minecraft, any of those popular games, I'm sure I can get to your device through them. So we have to have conversations with the youngsters. At the National CSOT, we go into the schools. So you mentioned the fact that the names suggest that we're responding, but we are proactive as well.
Okay.
So we do go in there and explain to them that, hey, on these gaming sites, you have people approaching you with cheats and cracks and patches to get you to another level without you having to put in the work. Be careful about that. because some of these patch and cracks and so they are going to create holes in your device. A bad actor could compromise the device, take it over. And that device then goes home, it connects to the home network. Who else connects to the home network?
Yeah, parents and everybody.
Precisely. And they do the online banking and all these things. And just like that, you have a serious problem on your hands. So it's a single chain we're dealing with when it comes to cybersecurity. It's a single chain. You have people who have different level of knowledge, who use the technology differently, but it is a single chain. From that child who was given a tablet at 4 to grandma who is in her 70s and she uses it just for, WhatsApp. Everybody need to be part of the conversation so they understand, all right, if you see something you're unsure of, ask somebody. What is the protocol for how things are treated within the home? I am a parent. I have 2 young ones, and they understand that if something shows up that they're not clear on, you have to consult.
Check daddy.
Right? You check daddy. And I think within our space in Grenada, there are people who you can call, you can count on. And even outside of that, that is why the CSUT exists.
We have to hold here. We have to take a short break. Technical viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back to continue our conversation.
Imagine a place where dreams come true. Fairyland awaits at the Magical Kids June Fair and Family Fun Day. Mark your calendars for June 9th. The Radisson grounds will transform into a wonderland for kids. Stay tuned for more enchanting details. Don't miss out.
The laundry, always do a full load, save water.
This awareness initiative is part of activities under the climate resilient water sector in Grenada. The project is funded by the Green Climate Fund, the German government, and the government of Grenada.
Hey Grenada, are you ready for the ultimate Sunday football fun day? On Sunday, May 26th, join the GFA for Battle of the Grenadines Round 2, featuring Team Grenada facing off against the Vinci Heat in the Carriacou Mini Stadium. For just $100, you get an all-inclusive ticket to the match and an epic excursion from Grenada to Carriacou aboard the Tyrrell Bay Express. Imagine this, sailing out from 9 a.m. with the sun shining, music pumping, drinks flowing, and the best vibes all around. Kickoff 4 p.m. We return right after the game, so the fun doesn't stop. And if you're already in Carriacou, no worries. Join us for the match for just $20. Tickets are flying fast. Grab yours at the GFA office, Chucky's Bar, or the Grenadian Optical. Let's make a wave and cheer Team Grenada to victory. Sponsored by the Tyrrell Bay Express.
Welcome back, viewers. We're here with Jervis Dabreo. He is the coordinator of the Grenada National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. Jervis, of course, we've been talking about cybersecurity and we've been focused more on business, but of course there's another aspect of it. What about the child predators? What about those other crimes? Because they are playing a major impact. There's a major impact on societies and on communities. What's the difference here? How do you mitigate against these type of crimes?
Right. Well, as a parent, my first responsibility to my children is to protect them.
Yeah.
Right. We are friends, but we're friends only after I get to execute my duty to protect them. And parents need to understand that giving the children the devices, allowing them to be on platforms that are not designed for minors, it's dangerous. Right? You need to know where your children are. You need to know who they are interacting with. Some of the old virtues and principles we were taught way back when, these things need to be passed on, or we need to remind our children. Don't talk to strangers. So when it's online or offline, or in person. So when you're in the chat room, understand that somebody who says they are 11 years old, they could be in their 30s, 40s, 50s. They could be a child predator. The information that is shared, the child need to know there are certain things you don't share. But we told our children that, we were told that.
But doesn't AI make it more difficult, Jervis?
Doesn't the
AI makes it more difficult?
It does. But again, the principle remain that you should not give out certain information, right?
Phone numbers and so on.
I mean, your house phone rings, right? The child picks it up and you hear daddy's not home. But come on, that happened because you did not have that conversation, right? One, the child should not be answering the phone without being given permission to answer the phone, and they should not be giving out the status of who is in and out of the house. Why? Because if I had to rob your house, I would call before I came, right? I would call. If I call and somebody answers the phone, I'll have to be a fool to try and break in. Well, it's the same sort of thing that you want to be applied in the digital space.
Easier said than done, though, W.
But I know, but I have one that is 11. And I
so much on the, they talk to their friends at school on the phone.
Yes.
They talk about a story they saw on the phone, something on Facebook or whatever. It's easier said than done.
So let me put it this way, right? For years, I was recommending a particular app to lock certain aspects of the devices, parental control. And it was employed on my daughter's device as well, right? Until she was able to get around it. And my wife's instructions was put a tougher one on there. And my thing was, no, I'm not going to waste my time. Children are highly motivated, whether it's to play games or to get in, she's going to find a way around it. It makes more sense to have a conversation with her, with them. Right? I think a lot of parents are giving up because they do not understand the technology. I've been in this thing for a lot of years, and my children, they've started dancing circles around me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
That is the reality behind it. Our children are supposed to be better than us. It doesn't matter what we're good at. That is what is supposed to happen, and we're supposed to encourage that. But we should also teach them that there are dangers out there. Right? If you can't do it, reach out to us at the National CSAT. We will have a conversation with the child in a manner that the child would understand. It is not about taking the device away. We're not saying don't play the games. We're saying if you're going to play the game, these are the things you need to be aware of.
And be careful.
Right? And you need to be careful. A child who is on TikTok lied about their age. Right? A child in primary school that you're not 15 years, right? So you most likely gave yourself a date of birth 2000 or something like that, right? You know who else may have done that? Somebody who is 50 who said they're 11 or 12, right? Once children start understanding that, hey, I did that, somebody may do that as well, then they start seeing it slightly different. We've had schools call us in because there were patterns of irresponsible behavior. And you go and you have a conversation with the students, you rap a little with them, and there are noticeable differences. the problem with that, has to be an ongoing conversation.
Do you have the resources you need, the team, to do its work? Are you satisfied both in terms of personnel and all you need? Is it adequate?
No.
It? So tell us what is required, because, and I'm raising this question because it seems to be an area for reasonable investments, given the implications and what the cost could be if we don't do it right. You know, to the government, to businesses, to everybody. Particularly to the government, because with the government we all pay for it. What's the deficiency here? Then?
So let me tell you what we've been seeing for the last 2-3 months.
Yeah.
We've started seeing sponsored malicious posts come in the way of Grenadians. So on Facebook, on Instagram, you have bad actors who are paying Meta. So Meta would put their malicious posts in front of Grenadians. Now, if a sponsored post shows up on your feed, it means somewhere along the line you fit into the demographics that was set for that to show up in front of. And the bad actors are paying Meta to do that. Now, I wish I had a budget at the National CSIRT to counter that. If you're going to run malicious sponsored posts, understanding that Meta is in the business of making money, unfortunately, I will have to throw good money at them to get in front of the faces of our people so they understand these are the malicious things, leave it alone. Who wins in that equation? Well, Meta. They make money from the bad guys and the good guys, but we're empowering our people as well.
Yeah, and you know, when you look at our society and the way we're heading for digitization, I mean, CBI have a big thing going on now with immigration, big conference, and a lot of the traffic in the CBI program is digital traffic. You know, and what happens there? And you don't want your program to be compromised by bad actors infiltrating. So the issue is, does the CBI, I use them as an example because of what's happening now, have what is required to protect the background, the systems in the background?
Well, I do hope they have, but I know from the National CSIRT, we're a long way from where I would want us to be at this point based on what is happening. There is a commitment for support and so forth. As I said, the National CSIRT was set up with the previous administration. The current administration endorses and has thrown some support there, but there is need for more. Strengthening of the team, ensuring that there are more soldiers in the fight, definitely.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and if as a country we have the reputation out there that our digital platforms are secured sufficiently to keep the risk within, mitigated and at a reasonable level, then it helps all of us in the country. In terms of profile and what can happen across tourism, across public service, across businesses.
I mean, we are in a much better position than many of the other neighboring islands, right? Outside of Trinidad and Jamaica, they have established national CSIRT. So there is a body that is tasked with the same thing we're tasked with. But there is nothing in St. Lucia, there is nothing in St. Vincent, there is nothing in Dominica, there is nothing like what we have in Antigua and most of the other islands.
That's where the risk will come from.
Right. So we are ahead in quite a few instances, but I think we still need to be further ahead than where we are. Because any dollar that is lost is a dollar too much.
Finally, most soldiers in the fight.
Yes.
How can we attract, because it seems to be a path to a career, clearly, and as you mentioned earlier, clearly there's a demand. How can we get more young people into this field of study? Because as you say, it's important and more is needed. More soldiers to the fight. What's the plan for that?
Well, I think the government have indicated that there was a conversation between government and a Canadian entity to train I think it's quite a few hundred of our people in cybersecurity.
Okay.
I look forward to that, but in the back of my mind, I also see the poaching happening.
Especially the talented ones.
Yeah,
Can go both ways, eh? That's what you say.
The other thing too is, unlike many of the other fields, cybersecurity right now it's constantly going. Right? You're a medical doctor. There are only so many things that change within a 5-year period. As someone who has been in cybersecurity for the last few years, every other day there is something new.
Yeah.
So we tell you, hey, don't enter your information if you do not see HTTPS. Now we're telling you, even if you see HTTPS, please don't enter the information unless you verify it. We said look for errors in the grammar and spelling. Now we're saying, hey, none of that, right? We're saying look for issues with the quality of the graphics. The Republic Bank phishing scam, they had put out something on that. The graphics were on point. The fake page that was created, it looked just like the authentic page, right? We say employ 2FA, two-factor authentication. Now we're looking at, well, how do we come back and tell people 2FA is not as safe as it was a month and a half ago, which is the reality right now. So we're constantly having to stay on top of what is happening and having now to decide, all right, what do we go back to the people and say adjust, right? And I'll say three things. If people forget everything else, 3 things need to be in the forefront of your mind. 1, you need to be suspicious with everything you encounter, right? It doesn't matter what.
Everything?
Remember, everything. A call comes into your phone and it says your wife is calling. You answer the phone and you hear her voice. You may not be speaking to your wife and she may not have placed that call. So we're seeing.
So you have a test question.
So yes, right. And even when they reach out, yes, you ask something that she alone would know. Right now, this is a change in the protocol for engagement. Right. So you need to be suspicious. It has to be treated as suspicious unless it proves itself to be otherwise. Right. Secondly, you have to keep your emotions in check. Right? You receive a message on your phone saying your account was debited $10,000, click here. You most likely would get anxious if you do not keep your emotions in check. You get upset. Who take my money now? The bank trying to rob me again. And you click. And just like that, you end up in a world of problems. Keep the emotions in check. And thirdly, in addition to the 2 I mentioned, I think it's very important for us to just ensure that we stay on top of what is going on, right? If you see something you're unsure of, don't just be silent about it, ask for help. So be suspicious, right? Keep the emotions in check and don't be afraid to ask for help. Right, I mean, at the National CSUT, we lean heavily on the DFU, the Digital Forensic Unit. That is Inspector Noel and her team within the RGPF. When it comes to things of a legal matter, we lean on the legal fraternity.
So is there someone the public can call suspicious?
You reach out to us at the National CSUT.
So you have a number, you have...
423-2478, but that number is only for WhatsApp.
Okay.
We have a website, we have our email address, csutgnd@gov.gd. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. If Grenadians are in that space, we have a presence there just to make it as easy as possible for us.
Accessible as
yes. So we're on Telegram as well. And if more people move to Trimmer, we'll be on Trimmer. We're wherever, just hoping that, hey, you see something, reach out. Don't send the money and then ask us if that entity is good and you're going to get your vehicle. Ask us before, which is what happened last week, and somebody saved, they protected $6,400 US.
Wow, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being
And we're going to have you back. I mean, because the important thing about this, it touches everybody. It has the potential to touch everyone. Yes. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We'll see you. Thank you for being with us. We thank our technical team. We'll see you next week, same time. Bye-bye.